welcome to another edition of Ask Ron. This time I'm going to answer a question that I've been getting since May. It's a two-part question. It's, have you seen Generation Iron 2, and what did you think of it? So here we are into December, halfway through December. I just finally saw Generation 2 on Netflix, Iron 2 on Netflix last night, so I'll give my review of it, because it is a very significant movie in our little world. This is a feature film that's available on Netflix for anyone around the world who's a Netflix subscriber to check out, and that's sort of the impression that they get of the bodybuilding industry in the world, our sport, is from watching the Generation Iron movies, because Pumping Iron was 40 years ago. Yeah, literally 40 years ago now. So first off, I want to say I did enjoy the first Generation Iron. It wasn't an awesome movie, but it was a pretty decent docudrama. It was covering a few guys leading up to the 2012 Mr. Olympia contest. In a similar way to how Pumping Iron followed a few guys leading up to the 1975 Olympia, and a couple guys going into the universe that year. So it had a storyline, and that's what a docudrama is. Docudramas, they're documentaries, but they're not really documentaries. You could tell there was some scripting going on, and the way things were juxtaposed and people were portrayed to make it more dramatic. Definitely, I think I got some heat for suggesting that Phil Heath was portrayed in sort of a negative light in that movie, where Kai was supposed to be the hero and Phil was like it was more like in the original Rocky, Phil Heath was the Apollo Creed and Kai was the Rocky, the underdog, going up against this established champion who had all the wealth and was arrogant and all this. And anyway, as much as I think that things were manipulated in that movie, it was for the purpose of entertainment, and I think it did make for a better movie to watch. It was more watchable, it was more entertaining. This was, Generation Iron 2 was more of a straight-up documentary. And it goes to show you that documentaries on their own aren't as interesting to watch. I do want to say, before I get into any critiques of the movie, that visually it looks great. Astounding, spectacular production values on the part of Vlad Yudin and his crew. The latest technology, everything looked really crisp, the audio was great. If you're watching this on a HD or 4K TV, everything really pops. Visually, it's an arresting movie, especially, that's why people watch bodybuilding things, is because it's a visual sport. But what was this movie about? It really wasn't about anything. It was sort of a snapshot into a few different people. And I'll go through everybody that was covered. It would sort of just jump back and forth between these people and what was going on. It wasn't leading up to a competition. It wasn't about a competition per se, although two of the guys that followed, Hide and Ahmad, were getting ready for the Arnold Classic that was earlier this year, and they did show a little bit of that competition. So there was some of that, sure. But for the most part, I think they were trying to show how bodybuilding is sort of changing and being interwoven with the social media aspect, and how the people that are social media stars are sort of becoming more popular than a lot of the established bodybuilding champions, that's been going on for a few years now. So the first person we see in the movie is Colin Van Moga. So Colin is from Australia, and you guys all know him. He's very popular, got millions of followers on social media. What an amazing physique on this guy, Colin. I'll say that for sure. Spectacular physique, super handsome guy. He looks like he should be a movie star. And in fact, they show him at one point going on an audition, and you see that he doesn't have that charisma, that personality really for acting. Maybe he could be in some minor roles where he's in the background, or action where he doesn't have to talk much, but unless he does some serious acting classes and opens up his personality, I can't see him doing that well in the acting field. But again, the kid looks amazing. He's 26 years old, maybe he's 27 now, I don't know. So the first thing we see is him shopping, doing his grocery shopping on a skateboard. I'm assuming this was like a stunt for the movie. I hope he doesn't do that in real life all the time. It looked pretty dangerous, because then he's got bags of groceries and he's trying to skateboard back all the way up to his apartment somewhere. It looks like he's in Venice somewhere. Real awkward scene for me to watch. So all I got out of Colm in this movie was, so they sort of followed him as he made a last-minute decision to do an NPC show in Southern California, Classic Physique Division, so that he could become nationally qualified. And I don't know his immigration status, if he's a U.S. citizen, if he can go ahead and, because he won that, so he's qualified for nationals, so I don't know if he's able to go on and, you know, compete for a pro card at the shows like USA, Team Universe, North American, or Nationals, which all have classic physique, but you do have to be a U.S. citizen to do all those. And like I said, Colm's from Australia. I don't know, because my son-in-law just got a green card himself after quite a long and rigorous process. It's not easy. It's not easy becoming a U.S. citizen these days, not at all. Not even, you know, if you're from a place like Australia or where, you know, the U.S. has good relations with. Anyway, so Colm, yeah, that's all I got out of him in this movie, is that he's got a lot of followers. He's a great-looking guy, great physique, and you know, that's the future, is good-looking guys that have a lot of Instagram followers, Facebook followers. Kai Green, who was the co-star, I'd say Generation Iron 1, the two main stars of the movie were Phil and Kai. So Phil was not in this one. Kai was featured. The movie actually starts with him doing a really cool guest posing appearance in India, and he's not competing anymore. You know, he hasn't competed for a couple years now, and you know, I don't know if he ever will compete again. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. You know, it's up to Kai. Kai probably doesn't even know what he's going to do. So this sort of went back and forth a few times over the course of the movie with Kai. You know, Kai being Kai, talking about some strange things, and can't really follow what's going on sometimes, but it did show him working for the success of his graphic novel or his comic book, King Kai. Showed him at Comic-Con. Kai is a very, very talented artist, tremendously creative individual, obviously. So he's got that going on, and it also showed him in acting classes. And Kai actually has an amazing personality for acting. I caught him on a couple episodes of Stranger Things on Netflix recently, and although he wasn't on screen a lot, he's a pretty good actor. I could see him doing just about anything. You know, he could probably do comedy, action, whatever. He's very versatile, and he's the type of person, I think, he could apply anything he really applies himself to, he's going to do well at. So if that's where Kai is putting his focus and attention now, is being an actor and doing well at that, I have no doubt he's going to be successful at that. But not a lot of, you know, Kai didn't really bring a lot of insight into the movie as far as where the industry's headed, and like I said, I'm not really sure if that was even the intent of the movie. So the next thing, we also saw Hidetaka Yamagishi, pro bodybuilder, originally from Japan, and his girlfriend Iris Kyle. So they live in Las Vegas now, and it was sort of juxtaposing how Iris's career may or may not be over at this point, because there is no more Ms. Olympia. She won 10 Ms. Olympia titles, but that contest no longer exists, and you know, she's pretty upset that there's not a lot of avenues for female pro bodybuilders anymore, and you know, saying that it still has a huge fan base. You know, huge. I would argue that if it had a huge fan base, it would still be around. If it had enough of a fan base to fill up theaters like the old days. Like, I used to go to the Ms. Olympia in the early 90s when I was working for the ESPN show, and we did the event coverage for shows like the Ms. Olympia, and it would be held away from the Mr. Olympia, like a month apart from it, totally different city. It would just be the Ms. Olympia. People would fly out there and buy their tickets just to go watch that. You know, big theaters, big venues. It was sold out, and they were there just for women's bodybuilding. And you wouldn't see that now. It's just it's sort of lost a lot of its appeal, its luster. And she's you know, she talks in the movie about how female bodybuilding shouldn't be about facial beauty and femininity. They're athletes. You know, who cares if like a woman running the 100-meter in the Olympics is pretty or feminine? Who cares? Or if, you know, on the U.S. volleyball team or downhill skier, what's that got to do with their athleticism? And you know, she makes a good point with that, but at the same time, bodybuilding is an odd mixture where it's not so much a sport as it is a blend of sport and pageantry. So it's kind of a beauty contest for muscles, and it doesn't matter as much. It's a double standard, I know. A man can be, let's face it, pretty homely as long as his physique is amazing. Nobody really cares that he's not Brad Pitt. But with a woman, if she's got a great physique but her face is manly looking or she's not attractive, I know it's a double standard. It's not fair. Life's not fair, but that's just the way it goes. So women's bodybuilding no longer has an appeal. So she in the movie is focusing her attention on helping her boyfriend Hide get ready for the Arnold. And it was kind of a disastrous show because Hide had won the show in 2016, the Arnold 212. He looked amazing. I'm not sure what went wrong with him. I'm going to actually try to get him on a Ron line soon. Because he didn't look like that at the 2017 Arnold. He was so flat. I've heard very good rumors, or I should say on good authority, that he's putting in for the Open at the next Arnold, which I think would be great. I liked him better in the Open class. He was fuller. The difference between 220 and 212, or whatever the weight difference really is with him between Open and 212, makes such a difference on that guy's body. He's so much fuller, has more roundness, pops, his shoulders, everything looks so much better on him. Just a few more pounds over 212. Like I think he's looked his best around 220, 222 in the past, and you know he was top 10 in the Olympia a couple times, the Mr. Olympia, the Open Olympia. So I'd like to see him go back. But in the movie, you know, they only show they follow two people preparing for the Arnold, which is him and the man who eventually won it, Kuwait's Ahmad Ashkenani. And you know, because those are the only two guys they were following, they sort of made it look like the competition was between them, and we all know, you know, having the show being long over now, it was 8 months ago, that, you know, it was David Henry was the one really pushing Ahmad for the win. And you also had Jose and Guy and, what's his name, Canadian kid. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, man, I'm horrible with names. I know exactly who he is. I just sometimes names escape me. But anyway, so Hide did not do well. He took 6th in the show, and it's kind of a bummer because we're following a guy that, you know, because if you're watching him throughout the course of the prep toward the later stages, anyone with an eye for physiques can see that he's not looking the way he should look. So something went wrong, and it's not discussed in the movie. I'm curious to know, you know, what happened with his prep or what was going on with him that led to that. So that was kind of a letdown. Now Ahmad is in the movie, but it's more in the context of being part of. They went over to Kuwait, the producers of Generation Iron 2, and they were filming in Oxygen Gym, and they interviewed Bader Budai, and Ahmad's in there talking too. And you know, it's not so much about Ahmad in that part of the movie as it is that this is the new Mecca. This is a real up and coming spot in the world where great champions are going to be coming from, because Bader is such a good patron to the sport over there, and he is. He's built these incredible gyms, and he's taken the athletes with the best genetics, and he's set them up with the best facilities, the best coaches, nutrition, whatever else may be involved, the best of everything to make sure that Kuwait is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and they are. We had Big Ramy was second at the Olympia, and Ahmad was second to Flex Lewis at the 212, and he was also the Arnold Classic champion this year, 2017. So they're doing well. It was kind of odd toward the end. They had a part where Bader was talking to all the athletes, and it was translated from the Arabic, and just kind of a weird us versus them vibe, where he's talking about how, you know, we're going to be better, we're going to rise up and be better because we're more mentally strong, and I don't know if they's supposed to mean Americans. All they know how to do is spend money, which is weird because, you know, Kuwait's got a ton of money, and that gym it's got to be like $1 billion gym if you look at it. Hey, you know, Ahmad's rolling up in a Lamborghini. So anyway, I didn't quite get what's going on there. The last person I want to talk about in this movie was the late Rich Piana. So the movie was released May 12th, and Rich unfortunately died just a couple months later, August 25th, after being in a coma for a couple weeks. So honestly, I've watched a couple Piana videos that he made in the past, not a lot. But this really gave me a glimpse into who Rich was, and why he was seeking fame. It was kind of sad because I never got to know the guy. I never really had a conversation with him, even though I've seen him around for many, many years. I mean, I knew of him back when he was competing at the state level in the mid '90s back in California. He eventually won the California. But you learn that his mother was a bodybuilder, and parents were divorced. But because the mom was a bodybuilder and she was very into her appearance, so he learned from a very early age that your appearance is very, very important. Your exterior shell, as he said in the movie, quoted as saying, that's very, very important. So he was very much into the look that he had, the tattoos, the inflated with whatever was in there, PMMA, whatever, the huge inflated muscles, all the tattoos. He's seen like adjusting his hair carefully a few times. Very much into his appearance, and also lets on that his mom dated a lot of bodybuilders. She loved big bodybuilder guys, so he always had those guys around. So, he was always going to be a big freaky bodybuilder. There was never any question that that's what he was going to end up being. And he just seemed to me like he wanted a lot of attention and acceptance. He said in the movie that his goal was to eventually be as famous as The Rock, where everywhere he went, people would instantly know who he was and basically like kowtow to him, like, want to, oh, can I get you anything? What can we do? You basically like kiss his ass. As someone like The Rock, I'm sure everywhere The Rock goes, people are like, oh my God, what can we do for you? What can we do for you? And that's what he wanted. So he was really just looking for that sort of approval and acceptance. And he did have a lot of that. He had a humongous fan base all around the world with the 5%. People that aspired to identify with the 5% brand and the lifestyle, or whatever that even is, I don't know. But it's just sad because, like I said, I didn't know Rich. Obviously I walked past him a million times at these expos and everything, but never had a conversation with him. And I'm finding more and more with people that are passing away lately that I should have really at least tried to talk to them. I feel terrible. This guy just passed away. Editor of Muscle and Fit, Sean Perrine. Another guy I'd seen around, and I know he was a great guy. Everyone always said very nice things about him, but I never got to know him. It's my bad. Sometimes I'm introverted or shy, even though it might seem like I'm not. And I'm just in my own head a lot of times when I'm at these shows, or focused on what I have to do, and I'm just not. I don't have the best social skills at times. Something I need to work on. But yeah, the Rich Piana part of the movie to me was probably the most interesting part. Yeah, because he died right after too, for sure. Because it was a real look into his psyche and his personality. Not in depth. They didn't interview him too much about things like that, but you really got an insight into what drove him to look the way he looked, and what motivated him in life. Beyond obviously just making money, he just wanted to be known and accepted and adored, I guess. So R.I.P. That's it for my review. I still would say, because it's on Netflix, it's easy to watch. It's like an hour and a half. I would say it's still worth watching. And like I said, amazing production values. It's a good-looking movie. If you want to see great physiques, Kai's in there looking great. Callum is all over this movie looking amazing. And there's some nice little insights into the Oxygen Gym world and all that. So it's definitely worth watching. I did like the first one better. But sequels often, it's really hard to live up to the first one, no matter what you do, unless you're making the same movie all over again, which wouldn't be advisable. So that's it for Ask Ron. Next time I promise I'll answer some real questions. So this one was more like a movie review, but thank you for watching. Bye-bye.